Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to Left Coast Live. It is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. I am your host, Diener McBusiness, joined as always by the one and only Stat Pat, stateless patriot from the Central Valley. He's already been live for a few minutes. So what's going on, Stat Pat? The world is still continuing to come apart at the seams. But, it's just another day in the administration of Trump Part 2. It's just putting out fires with the Hegseth stuff, and the left getting all fired up. Finally, people starting to talk about a revolution in the way that we've been talking about for over a year now since we've been doing the show, and saying that we need to get more aggressive with our political posture.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're going to react to David Hogg and James Carville in a little while.
That's gonna be fun.
And it sounds like, well, David Hogg is just the perfect guy for this role right now. He's, even much younger than I am. I think he's your age.
Yeah,
I think he's a little bit younger than you. A little bit younger.
A little
bit.
Right? I think because I don't know much about his face-off with James Carville. I guess they did it on a program or something like that. But I think he's also been doing like a bit of a media run to David Hogg. I think he talked to what's his name, the CNN guy. Do the glasses. Whatever his name is. I think he's done a few appearances here and there where he's like literally like calling for the Democrats to do something inject some energy into this establishment. And like his voice is very much needed right now, and it's not surprising that he feels this way. Like a lot of young people are super fucking scared right now. They're just by what they're witnessing with their very eyes, and not to mention just the utter chaos that the Trump administration is sowing right now.
What are your hottest issues right now?
Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper is who I was
That's who you're thinking of?
Yeah.
So ABS says, hello. Did you guys see Abrego Garcia is still alive?
I got the news right when we ended our stream. Like right when we ended our last stream last week. It's a relief from what we understand. It was a very fiery stream because god damn, this shit should really piss everybody off. But I guess he was moved from the from CCOT, the concentration camp down there in El Salvador, to an actual El Salvadoran jail. And apparently he has a bed in his own personal cell, something like that. And his conditions are improved drastically from what I understand. And that's the last I've heard. But the president Bukele said that he's still not going to be sent back to the United States. He's basically being kept there in El Salvador, within the custody of El Salvador is I think what he tweeted out. But so he's alive and apparently he's fine. He met with the Maryland senator when he went down there because initially the Maryland senator was rejected. He wasn't allowed in, but I guess the news broke during our last stream that the Maryland senator was able to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and the El Salvadoran president oversaw it.
So that's a relief. ABS, yes, absolutely. Check out the Humanist Report's coverage of David Hogg. Did an excellent video of it. And Mike's a friend of the show, so definitely subscribe to him if you are not already.
Yeah, I didn't want to spoil myself, so I didn't watch his video about David Hogg going face to face with Carville. I wanted to basically react to it raw on the spot. So I'm very curious to see what David Hogg has to say for sure. And me and Dieter are definitely frequent watchers of Humanist Report. We're both members of his channel as well. We've been in his Zoom calls that he does monthly for his subscribers, like his members, and it's always a good time. He's got a nice little community for sure.
Yeah, maybe we should just even react to his video of it. Because it's like, yeah, they're just going back and forth. I mean, it's not like they were on a show together, which is annoying because I want to see them.
Oh, they weren't? Okay, so it was just like a tit for tat, like on like
yeah,
what,
it's
Twitter.
like he said this. Is like he said this on this show. DNC
Okay.
chair twerp blast James Carville for threatening to see him. Yeah, I mean, we could just watch Figueiredo's video
Sure,
if you want.
we might as well. Yeah, if it makes it
All
easier. Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, since I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, since you haven't seen it, let's just do it.
Sure.
Because, wait, hold on. Is it? Yikes. Yeah, there it is.
Contemptible little twerp.
Frankly, he has not won an election since before I was born.
So James Carville, who is an insufferable Democratic Party strategist who is frequently wrong about basically every single thing that he says, is fighting with the current Vice DNC chair, David Hogg, about David Hogg's plan to spend $20 million primarying incumbent Democrats in safe blue districts who he believes aren't doing enough to fight Donald Trump. Now, even though David Hogg's plan
Worthwhile cause.
Democrats because he wants a generational change, he says it's not really about age. And in the New York Times, he's quoted saying that the plan is to make room for a new generation to step up and help make sure that we have the people that are most acutely impacted by a lot of issues that we are legislating on that are actually going to live to see the consequences of this. And he adds, more than anything, it is, do you want to roll over and die or do you want to fight? And too many people look at our party right now and feel like we want to roll over and die. Now, while he hasn't announced who he's planning to target yet, his plan is to take on Democrats who coast by on seniority by doing nothing. And this is seemingly a repudiation of James Carville's strategy, which is for Democrats to roll over and play dead. And
so,
and if it sounds like I'm being uncharitable in describing Carville's strategy, those are
those are literally his exact words. It's just like, how can anyone look at David Hogg and James Carville and think that what Carville is saying, what he's suggesting, what senior representatives or party insiders like him suggest, like there's no comparison. Like the energy is with the young crowd who actually have a message, who actually want to fight, and not just tuck their tail between their legs, do nothing, stick their heads in the sand, play dead, like Chuck Schumer said, or whatever the fuck. Like even like your typical liberal is waking up to how bad shit is.
Yeah.
To where like more and more people are like, oh wow, like all the energy is behind Bernie and AOC right now. They were right all along, and this and that. It's like no fucking wonder, dude. Like they're the only ones who actually seem to give a shit.
Yeah, I think we just always got to be thinking 2 steps ahead and making sure that this pendulum swing is as far to the left as possible. Because this whole far right thing, it's like, I don't want us to 2 to 4 to 6 years from now being like, oh, but there's still good parts of conservatism. I want MAGA to be a verdict on all of conservatism.
Those are his words, not mine. In a guest essay for the New York Times, Carville argues with no clear leader to voice our opposition and no control in any branch of government, it's time for Democrats to embark on the most daring political maneuver in the history of our party. Rolled over and play dead. And he goes on to explain that he doesn't think there's much Democrats can do anyway. So if they just sit back and watch Republicans destroy the country, then they'll also destroy themselves and embolden Democrats. And in the next election cycle, Americans will inevitably come running back to Democrats with open arms, assuming that is that we still have free and fair elections in this country. Now, this quote unquote strategy is idiotic for obvious reasons, but a lot of Democrats seem to agree with Carville's approach because they're already not doing anything. So if they say, oh, well, it's a strategy for me to sit on my ass and not fight Donald Trump, that makes them look better. David Hogg, however, is using his position as vice chairman to let these do-nothing Democrats know that if they don't fight, they're out. and it's
I totally
expectedly
forgot
ruffled some
about that.
feathers within the party.
Like,
Axios reports that House Democrats are
I actually forgot about that. The fact that David Hogg is the vice chair of the
Yeah, you
DNC
didn't know
right
that?
now.
Yeah.
I forgot. Honestly, like,
Yeah.
crazy. So
pissed,
like he has a
saying
lot of
it's
sway.
appropriate for the DNC vice chair to threaten incumbents, and others are anonymously calling it a circular firing squad, while members like Hillary Scholten, who could be one of his targets, I guess, accused him of doing this for online clicks. And I've got to say, seeing their tantrums and how entitled they think they are to their seats demonstrates why they should be primaried. But Democratic
Yes.
Party leadership has always shielded corrupt, incompetent Democrats from primary challengers. So now that David Hogg is shaking things up from within, they don't know what to do or how to respond, since people in his position have traditionally protected people like them. And even former party leaders have come out to denounce David Hogg's plan, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the notoriously corrupt former DNC chair who was forced to resign in shame after she was caught sabotaging Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign. But on MSNBC, she ironically decided to talk about the virtues of leadership and scold David Hogg about what he should be focused on as a member of leadership.
Our job is, when you're an officer of the DNC or an office holder of the Democratic Party, like I am, our job is to make sure that we can go to bat for the American people every single day, and politically that we're able to return to the majority. And that is the first, second, and third goal of achievement for November of 2026. And the pathway to winning the 3 seats that we have to do to make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House of Representatives, which I am confident we will do, is through districts that are marginal. We have to make sure that voters understand we're on their side, and the Republicans are on the side of billionaires and wealthy corporations and people who want to take their rights away and don't believe in democracy.
That's rich coming from
completely
her,
checked
people,
out.
since part of the reason why she had to resign in the first place was because she tried to subvert democracy in the 2016 Democratic Party primaries. And while Republicans are obviously orders of magnitude more corrupt than Democrats overall, Democrats are still very much so corrupt. They're still beholden to their corporate.
Like, what did she even say? Like, what did she like? What did she inspire with that statement? Like, she said a whole bunch of nothing. Like, there is no.
But that's what politicians do.
Yeah. There's no courage in what she said. There's no fight. There was no energy. Like,
there's no specificity.
Exactly. Just completely vague. you know, it's
corporate
like
donors. Democrats like her in particular prioritize their donors in the payday loan industry over her own constituents. And that is part of the reason why so many Americans just don't trust Democrats either. They win elections simply because they're not Republicans. That's it. But nobody's excited to vote for Democrats most of the time. They win because they're not as bad as Republicans. And David Hogg acknowledges this, and he wants to raise the bar. He understands that the party can't just skate by every single election simply because they're the lesser of two evils. At some point, you have to actually give people a compelling alternative to Republicans to break this death spiral that we're in. And that's what sets him apart from all the other leaders and strategists who are coming out of the woodwork to denounce him. And I think that he had a great response to all of the people who are saying, this is a terrible idea.
Let me let you address some social media criticism you've gotten. Matt Bennett from the Clinton-Gore era. This is insane behavior. John Anzalone, pollster most recently for President Biden. $20 million should be spent on swing state legislative races, meaning state legislative races, and down ballot, not on this. Steve Shale, a Florida Democratic strategist, saying the DNC's vice chair should be focused on this kind of engagement, meaning engaging in places in battleground states where Democrats have lost ground, not over which Dem in a plus 20 seat should be primaried and knocked out.
You know, look at the last results of the previous election. Those are the purported experts that brought us here.
That is undeniably true. The same people who were advisors for John Kerry's losing campaign went on to become advisors for.
Both can be true, though. You can go after those swing state Democrat seats, you know, those vulnerable seats that can swing the House the Democrats' way. And you can also go after the legacy Democrats that get by on seniority, who are in very safe seats, up 20 points, like suggested here, and replace them with Democrats who actually give a shit, with progressives, like who have a fight,
right?
who have energy. You could do both at the same time. It's
I mean,
not that
you could
complicated.
even just simplify it, just anybody over 65 or anybody over 70 in 2026 should be primaried. Like, enough, get this entire generation out. Like, and I would even go younger if I could, but 70 is an easy one. I mean, it's just enough.
Just for Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris's losing campaigns. And the reason why there hasn't been this paradigm shift in the party, aside from corruption, is because the losers who keep feeding Democrats bad advice election after election after election are never purged from the party since they have seniority. The strategists who've been there forever, like James Carville, well, they hold more sway over the newer strategists who have fresh, bold ideas. And the party's deference to seniority is why we see them make insane decisions, like electing Jerry Connolly, somebody who was old and literally dying over AOC, a young up-and-coming leader who the base seems to like. It's part of the reason why the party has completely stagnated, which he explains in the following clip.
When I was studying history in college, one of the things that I studied was the 1968 DNC. Many of our oldest members of Congress got involved with politics following that DNC and the reforms that came to create the popular primary process that we have today. In our party, we've replaced those those back rooms filled with smoke with a culture of complacency that says that the litmus test of whether or not you should be somewhere isn't based off of how good you are or how effective you are, but how long you've been there. And to me, that's unacceptable. It's anti-democratic, and it's not good for the future of our party.
So the goal for Hogg is to force.
It's just downright lazy. It's just downright, there's just people saying, oh, they've been here for a while, they're experienced. And it's like, well, what does that experience reveal? That they're good at this job or not? And they don't. It's just, this is another loser mentality. Like, James Carville is a loser. Like, I'm sorry. Like, the guy was part of an administration that hurt the country. I mean, I've talked about it on the Letter Hack, where Star Wars is politics, Star Trek is policy, political marketing is Jurassic Park, and that means you got to kill dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs that you got to kill are Clinton and Reagan. And if that means that you got to take down James Carville, then go right at it, Hogg.
Yeah, he's right. He's right there with them. Yeah, exactly. And David Hogg here is saying shit that progressives have been saying since the 2016 election.
Yes.
It's I wouldn't be surprised if David Hogg actually watches some secular talk, because it's the same. This has been said for years and years and years. If you're, it's like we said on the show before: either lead, follow, or get out of the way. And all these Democrats that just want to take the James Carville strategy of roll over and die, and just sit on their ass, sit on their hands, like they're in the fucking way. It's that simple.
You force Democrats to prove their worth. It doesn't matter how long you've represented your district. What matters is what you've done for your district. And on MSNBC, he had a message that I can get behind.
If you were an effective leader and you're listening to this right now and you're a member of Congress, you have nothing to be worried about. And if this brings you anxiety, you should ask yourself why that is, because there are young people out there ready to meet this moment, and our party must do a better job to show our young people that we're here to win them back.
Yeah, so needless to say, some Democrats aren't feeling too safe given the threat from the sitting vice DNC chair, and to that I say, good, fuck him. I like that he's doing this, but as you're going to see in a moment or two, I do have some problems with what he's doing, specifically the lack of clarity. But I love to know that some Democrats who haven't done shit for decades are squirming right now. But with that being said, who he chooses to target does matter. And he just hasn't been very clear about that. Nonetheless, the meltdowns that have ensued following his announcement have been glorious to watch. I'm not going to lie, but no Democrat has shit themselves harder than James Carville, who went on a warpath against David Hogg for daring to suggest that these Democrats who've been there forever should be primaried.
All right, now wait a minute. Let's get this straight. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he is talking about raising $20 million to primary other Democrats. Well, when I look at the DNC, ideally it should be an organization that's trying to beat Republicans, not other Democrats. But when you're talking
Dude
about
has so much
using
liquor.
the power of the DNC, whatever power it has, it's not very much. But you're using that, and we're paying, Democratic donors are paying David Hogg's salary, they're paying David Hogg's staff, and he wants to run against other Democrats. Well, that's America. Run against who the fuck you want to, but don't resign your position. Have guts, man. Have guts. Stand your ground.
What? That doesn't even make sense, James. No. Why would he resign if he presumably ran for the position that he's in so he'd be able to do what he's doing right now?
It's just that Carville doesn't respect him. It's actually
that's it. Yeah,
it's a reverse ageism. I don't know what you call it, a youthism. Like he just sees this like 20-something guy talking articulately about politics and wishes that he had that kind of ethos. But he has the old man ethos that no one really wants anymore. No one wants it anymore, dude. The old men don't know what they're talking about. Their time is coming off.
Yeah,
and why is he a coward?
Ageism, yeah.
Or if he doesn't do what you say he should do, are you trying to reverse psychology him, like out of this position, or 5D chess him into not doing this? It makes no sense. But I mean, that kind of brain rot is part of the problem. That's the kind of person who has been representing Democrats for years. So the thought of turnover scares people like him, because if his brand of Democrats lose power, he'll become irrelevant. But you know, aside from just scaring the party off,
he's almost dead. Now, like he's on his like him and so many others are on their way out anyway. It's just like, please get out of the way. This is fucking Jurassic Park. Get the dinosaurs out.
People like him also worked with other party elites to keep the left out of power within the party. And in that same interview, he admitted that he doesn't actually think that the left should have a seat at the table at all. In fact, he thinks that they should just start their own party, go in their own path.
I think these people should get their own party. Don't call it anything Democratic. Call it the Socialist Urban Justice Community Unity Party or whatever. And then after the election, maybe we can have negotiations, or you can, vote for a Democrat to be the speaker if we win. But I actually think that it might be at a point where there are certain elements in a Democratic coalition that we just can't live in the same room with these people, because they actually learned nothing from 2024. They learned nothing from history, and they are hell-bent going this direction. And maybe what we need to do is say, you go, people, go ahead, go. And then we'll see you the Wednesday after the election.
Now, as much as I'd love to have a new left-wing socialist or communist party,
James Carville has lost it, man. He used to be way better. He is done like dinner, dude.
Yeah.
He is a casualty. Just add him to the stack of bodies that, in the bottom of which is Bill Maher. Like, these guys have got to go, dude. These guys, someone's got to step up. And it's too bad, because I thought like Rogan would be a guy like that. I thought Rogan would kind of step up and, be that kind of voice that would at least enable criticism, and at least enable criticism of these establishment media types. Because like the fact that, James Carville and Bill Maher are still so respected and listened to is just absolutely outrageous.
No, yeah. I mean, nowadays it's voices like Bill Burr, like a guy who like is known to be, not on the left, not on the right, yet he seems to be making the most sense. He seems to be.
Well, he's on the left. He's on the left.
Yeah, that's right.
He's just too smart. He's just too smart to like say, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny in his last stand-up especially, he goes after those people who wear like all the American flag gear when they go to the beach and stuff, and like those guys are usually such fucking MAGA assholes.
Yeah. I think he even made the joke. I think he said that he went to Canada and he saw someone with like a Canadian flag hanging out the back of his truck and whatnot. And he was like, "Thank God that you guys have that guy too. It's not just the America thing."
Yeah, exactly.
I saw him live a year ago, and
nice.
a lot of the material that he did when I saw him live is in his new special. I haven't seen the whole new special yet, but you're totally right though. He's very smart. He knows how to walk that line. He knows how to trigger both sides and call out the ridiculousness that most people would perceive. The extreme examples and whatnot. But it just seems to stick at the conservative right a lot more, because it's a lot more true. Like truth, like he speaks to reality, and it bothers them.
He's trying to bait the left into taking a path to powerlessness, so they marginalize themselves, so that way him and his ilk will be able to maintain their monopoly on the Democratic Party. But that mentality right there, this anti-left mentality, is part of the reason why the Democratic Party has lost credibility with so many people. I mean, think about the way they talk about the left. When it comes to the left, well, maybe we have irreconcilable differences and we should split. But when it comes to neocons and Republicans like Liz Cheney, well, we're Big Tent, so we've got to be open to diverse points of view if we want to win. Never mind the fact that Kamala Harris literally just tried to win with anti-Trump Republicans in lieu of progressives and lost the election. Never mind the fact that James Carville himself recently admitted that Bernie's more progressive populist message would have actually paid off, even if it pained him to admit that Bernie Sanders was right about anything.
Was this an economy election? And if so, is Sanders right that on populist working class kitchen table issues, the Dems didn't do enough?
I think Sanders has some of a point here.
Fast forward to today, and his demented brain has already reverted back to homeostasis.
Yes.
And he's not only saying that the party should split with the left, he's straight up attacking people like Bernie Sanders and AOC who are breathing new life into the Democratic Party, which is precisely what it needs right now. Nonetheless, James Carville thinks that they're bad.
Let me make a point about Bernie and AOC. But Bernie went for president twice. He's lost twice. AOC, in her kind, and this guy, David Hogg, they want to run against other Democrats. Yeah. They don't run against Republicans. Well, when you beat a Republican, come back and see me, and I will be impressed.
This is the guy who Democrats treat as some sort of a fucking oracle.
What an idiot. So he doesn't even make any sense, because you need to win the primary to beat the Republican in the general, you idiot. So like, this is a guy, like, I'm sorry, man. Like, an unpopular lefty opinion from me is that I think elitism has its place. Like, if I were ever in a position of power, I would want to be surrounded by the best and brightest. But a unpopular opinion here for older folks is ageism, where, I mean, this guy has just got to go. Like, he is just so far out of touch, and he just spent way too much time on TV and listening to the sound of his own voice and people telling him that he's a political savant, and he's not. He's a political hack. He's a hack.
I mean, is there, can he even like point to any examples of like actual lefty social democratic progressives getting through the primaries and then losing to the Republicans? Like, I don't even think that's fucking happened. Like, of course, the primary
because they never get through the fucking primary.
Yeah,
they never get through the Democratic Socialists. Never get through the primary because they get overwhelmed with money.
Because they get fucking conspired against by
kneecapped.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's fucking lost.
Oracle of wisdom. What he's demonstrably wrong about everything he says. As Adam Carlson put it on Twitter, AOC outperformed Harris in terms of raw votes and vote share, outran her by 6.7 points against a Republican. Bernie has defeated 13 Republicans, including ousting a Republican incumbent. And the last time Carville advised the campaign that beat a Republican was 29 years ago. But the reason why people like him continue to steer the party in whatever direction they go in, which is usually the wrong direction, is because of seniority, as David Hogg pointed out. But later on in that same clip, Chris Cuomo groups AOC and Bernie Sanders with David Hogg in order to make one of the dumbest false equivalences I have ever heard in my entire life. And the mention of David Hogg then triggers Carville, who then rants about how David Hogg should be sued. So buckle up, because this one is quite the doozy.
What you see with Bernie and AOC right now is MAGA playbook. MAGA playbook. Make the masses angry. Dave Hogg, that's MAGA playbook. Go after your own and have a purity test. But what beats you, you become that, you're not going to beat it.
Well, I don't think that most of the Democrats are that. And maybe
who's in power right now?
Form a governing coalition. You know, this happens every time in parliamentary things where you come in, you say, okay, you want to be part of our coalition. But when they spend all their time running against us, by the way, why don't somebody sue David Hogg? He's an officer of the Democratic National Committee. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he's running against other Democrats. I would like to know, and you went to law school, does he have a fiduciary duty to a Democrat? If you work for News Nation, you can't promote seeing that. That's if you work for somebody else. You have a fiduciary duty to your employer, which anybody can understand. He's being paid.
So he thinks the Democratic Party is a fucking business now. It's like, okay, if the Democratic Party to you is a business, and like what? So you hold unquestionable loyalty to it. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. You should if you want your business to grow, if you want your business to succeed, if you want to win in this fucking political landscape, you don't roll over and die. You don't give up. Like, how can you even begin to think that like to even make that comparison, James? What in the fuck are you talking about? It's like, and fucking what's his face? Who is that? Cuomo?
Cuomo, yeah.
Fucking talking about like, well, you're
going to become MAGA.
Yeah, exactly. MAGA. Like using their playbook and whatnot. It's just like MAGA's in power right now. They fucking won. So it's like, maybe we should start acting like winners. Maybe we should start learning from winners. We don't have to fucking like ideologically match them. Just learn from what they did. Just from a political standpoint, like how they rhetorically just steamrolled the fucking Democrats. Like, if you want to actually win, you don't stay in the same place. You move, you expand, you build your coalition. You don't try to you don't lay it down and die, and you don't try to court people who you claim are on the other team if they're just going to root for that other team regardless. If they're going to still vote for the Republican Party, it's a futile fucking effort. It's just like you want to be in a state of infinite regression. It's like no wonder fucking you're pissed at David Hogg, because he sees through the bullshit, and so do countless other Democrats, especially the voters. The energy is not behind you, fucking Carville. God damn it!
I don't know if I have standing, but I might give the DNC $10 and sue him. He's a contemptible little twerp.
Okay, that was a lot of stupidity. So I guess we'll just try to unpack it in chronological order because I don't know how else to address it. First of all, Bernie and AOC, they're not making people angry, Chris Cuomo. They're already angry. People are mad, and Bernie and AOC are trying to harness that anger. So people are mad at oligarchs, the people who are actually causing their pain and suffering, and not immigrants or trans people who are not causing their pain and suffering. But speaking of, using the MAGA playbook, why don't you talk to your sex pest brother about that? Because he's functionally as close to MAGA as a Democrat can be without switching parties. Second of all, Carville, again, proposes that leftists go their own way and floats the idea of some sort of a governing coalition like they have in parliamentary systems. The problem with that idea, James, is that as much as I would love that, we're not in a fucking parliamentary system. So you're asking the left to effectively give up all of their leverage by leaving the party. And while I'm not convinced personally that the Democratic Party can even be reformed at this point, I'm even less convinced that Democrats would ever agree to some sort of a power-sharing agreement with a new leftist party when they won't even share power with the leftists in their own party. Finally, James Carville floated the idea of suing David Hogg for, I guess, having a strategy that he doesn't like, which is brilliant. Listen, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, as DNC chair, literally violated the DNC's own neutrality clause by colluding with Clinton to sabotage Sanders. And do you want to know what the DNC's defense was in court when they were sued for that? They argued that the DNC was a private company. So if the party wanted to go back to picking candidates in smoke-filled dark rooms,
so they treat it like a business.
So the idea that now you think it's the time to sue the Democratic Party or a leader in particular for malfeasance is pretty funny. Now, David Hogg responded to Carville's tantrum, and what he had to say was perfect.
What's his plan to do with our 27% approval rating? That's my question to him. The fact of the matter is right now, our party is in a crisis. We are seeing people lose faith in our party. They're losing faith in democracy across the country. And we need to make sure that we're getting people to vote for Democrats, not simply because we're not Donald Trump, but because we have a better message, a better option for them. Not simply the less bad of two options, as I think Carville tries to promote when he says, well, we just shouldn't say anything. Carville believes in a politics of being timid, of hiding. I believe in fighting. And that is what people want to see right now from the Democratic Party. We just saw an example of that with Senator Van Hollen going to El Salvador to say, we need to meet with this man. And yes, Democrats obviously are in the minority right now, but let's be clear. We cannot win back the majority if we do not convince the American people that our party offers something that isn't just not Donald Trump, but is substantially better than Donald Trump, that fights to lower costs for Americans across the country, whether it's healthcare, housing, or the foundational building blocks of the American dream that feels so out of reach for people, or addressing gun violence. We can't simply just hide, as Carville repeatedly promotes, not to mention the fact that, frankly, he has not won an election since before I was born. I think it's time for some new voices in our party.
Well said. And that's part of the reason why he's trying to promote generational change, because the same people who've been dictating the direction of the party for decades are responsible for the predicament that we're in. People are desperate because
he looks like that picture of him,
and neither party is doing enough.
Mike, he looks like fucking Caillou. He looks like fucking Caillou, dude.
To address people's material needs. Hence why people are becoming susceptible to radicalization, because they're so desperate. The neoliberalism embraced by both parties has hollowed out the middle class and facilitated the rise of fascism that we're all dealing with today. So David is right to think that the same people who got us into this mess aren't going to be the same people to get us out of the mess, since they made the mess in the first place. With that being said, even though David's heart is in the right place, his plan is, quite frankly, ideologically incoherent and at times contradictory. For example, he won't say who isn't fighting enough, but when you ask him which Democrats he thinks are fighting enough, his answer is genuinely fucking puzzling, to put it charitably.
There are great older people in our party that are leading the fight against Donald Trump and have been doing so for nearly a decade at this point, like Congresswoman Pelosi. We also have people, obviously, like Jan Schakowsky and so many others that are meeting this moment. But the reality is, we know that only 27% of our base is approving of where we are right now as a party. If we had a proportional number of 25 to 30-year-old people in Congress, as we do in the general population, we would have over 40 members under 30. But currently, there's only one. That is part of the reason why we're losing our young voters. And what we have to do to protect our democracy is show our young voters that we are here to use democracy to fight back against the special interests that are killing the American dream and fight back the special interests that have put them through school shootings.
So in one breath, he says it's not about age, it's about effectiveness and a generational change and getting rid of Democrats beholden to special interests. But in another breath, he's praising Nancy Pelosi and Jan Schakowsky, even though both of them are antithetical to his own stated goals. Now, on one hand, I think that Nancy Pelosi is somewhat more effective at fighting Republicans, at least compared to Hakeem Jeffries, but that's a really low bar. But in terms of special interests, you can't tell me it's about getting special interests out of the party and then say, oh, Nancy Pelosi is somebody who's an example of a good Democrat. As if she's not beholden to special interests, as if she's not doing insider trading and getting rich while nothing changes in the fucking country. Listen, what makes it even worse for David is that Nancy Pelosi is currently being primaried by a younger, more progressive Democrat named Shaikat Chakrabarti, who's AOC's former chief of staff, and Jen Schakowsky is also being primaried by a Gen Z progressive activist and journalist, Kat Abu-Ghazala. Both of these young candidates aren't taking any money from special interests. They're fighting relentlessly against Trump and the Republicans. In fact, Kat launched her campaign calling on Democrats to stop being cowards, and they would both represent the generational change that David Hogg says he wants, yet he seemingly is embracing the out-of-touch incumbents that those younger candidates are running against. So what exactly is the criteria here? Maybe some more examples will help clear that up, you would think, right?
Like, what
Wrong,
does he
because
have?
the more examples that he gives, the more confusing
do they have
it gets.
something?
People like Congressman Maxwell Frost, right, who has helped to lead the charge in Congress against gun violence.
Examples that he gives, the more confusing it gets.
I want more people like Congressman Maxwell Frost, right, who has helped to lead the charge in Congress against gun violence, helped to push, the former Biden administration to create the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Or people like Senator Van Hollen, who are literally going to El Salvador to say this man needs to come back. It looks like people like Cory Booker, who, mind you, did primary somebody to get to that position. It looks like people in many ways like Hakeem Jeffries, who primaried multiple people to get to that position.
Now, here's where we start to lose the fucking plot entirely. If Hakeem Jeffries is a leader that you look up to, who embodies the effectiveness that you're supposedly looking for in Democratic Party leaders, then you don't know what you're looking for. Jeffries specifically faced backlash for not doing enough to fight Donald Trump and had the audacity to ask what leverage they had. And Jeffries isn't just ineffective at fighting Republicans, he is a collaborator with fascist Republicans and literally held hands with them in support of a rogue state committing a genocide.
We stand with Israel.
Oh my God. I'm gonna throw the fuck up.
Yeah, but let's not primary him. He's actually a good example of a leader doing the good work to fight Republicans. According
I'm starting to see the problem
of special
now.
interest, which David purports to care about, Hakeem Jeffries supports the genocidal state of Israel because he is one of their top recipients. And on that note, Silicon Valley oligarchs were one of the first groups that Hakeem Jeffries reached out to after the election as leader in order to mend fences with them. Not with voters, but with Silicon Valley oligarchs. Not to mention, he scolded Democrats like Al Green for daring to disrupt Donald Trump's joint address to Congress. But that's your good guy, David? That's an example of a Democrat who's fighting Republicans effectively? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
By your own criteria, he should be one of your first targets, but instead he's an example to you of someone who's doing a good job at fighting Trump and the Republicans. Make it make sense, because it doesn't. Now he also cites Cory Booker, because Cory Booker gave a 25-hour speech, and that's great and all, great way to use the bully pulpit, which is what we want, sure. The problem is that right after that speech, he voted against a resolution to cut off weapons to Israel. So if you're going to talk the talk, you better be able to walk the walk. And on that note, Cory Booker doesn't support policies like Medicare for All, which is one of the main reasons why so many people are frustrated with Democrats, because they're out of touch with their own base and not offering a compelling alternative to Republicans, which is something that you say you want, David. But to be fair, he also names Maxwell Frost and Chris Van Hollen as other examples of good Democrats. And even though I have my criticisms of both of them, they are better Democrats for sure. But again, you're not supporting Democrats like them who are primary and do-nothing incumbents. What gives?
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you want more Democrats like Frost and Van Hollen, why would you seemingly snub Chakrabarti and Abu-Ghazala? I mean, we're kind of all over the place here ideologically, which begs the question, what is David Hogg's litmus test? Because age, effectiveness, and ideology don't seem to be part of his criteria. And this was a question that was asked by an unhinged K-Hive influencer who called on Hogg to explain himself. He then went on to go on one of his unhinged rants that he's known for, but the core of his question that he's asking is still good nonetheless. So let's hear him out.
I want to know specifics. What is the litmus test? Okay, are we doing this based off a voting record? Are we doing this based off of progressivism? Are we doing this based off of age? Are we doing this based off of gender, race? Because historically speaking, just as Democrats have continuously attacked black legislators, and I'm not here with the motherfucking shit. I'm not here with the prejudice, progressive shit. If that's what the fuck you're doing, we're going to have a problem. Because a lot of y'all will sit here and say, well, it's based off of performance. So are we basing it off of who's popular? Or are we actually basing it off of performance? Because a lot of people just go off of the performative nature on it, because not everybody can be as popular as a Jasmine Crockett, even though she's also doing the motherfucking work. But however, a lot of people didn't know who the fuck Al Green was until he acted a damn fool on the State of the Union, rightfully damn so. A lot of y'all will probably be looking at Al Green with his age and being the fact that he's held that damn seat for 20 damn years, thinking that, oh, if he doesn't retire, are we going to primary this black man? Even though this black man has done a well for his motherfucking district. I'm talking about delivering $100 million motherfucking dollars to his damn constituents. I want to know, what are you going to do, and are you going to target black people? Because again, historically speaking, y'all already tried to primary Hakeem Jeffries before he was even the minority leader. And I'm also looking in the motherfucking comments that people are trying to hold Hakeem Jeffries to the most impossible motherfucking standards that they didn't even hold Nancy to. But however, Hakeem Jeffries was able to do his damn job by whipping the votes to vote against the continuing resolution. Why the fuck is he gonna have to pay the motherfucking price and pay for the fucking crimes of damn Chuck Schumer? Why not hold that white bitch to that motherfucking standard? How about that?
Why not both? See, even though I'm also confused about David Hogg's criteria, it's idiotic to assume that he's specifically only targeting black members of Congress. Why is that your automatic assumption? It makes no sense. Now, to be fair to him, the reason why he's worried about this is because he claims that Justice Democrats targeted black and brown incumbents. But to be unfair to him, he's dead fucking wrong, and he's making that up. It's just not true. Justice Democrats were disproportionately from minority communities themselves. So
yeah,
if the incumbent that they were targeting happened to be black.
Like when it came to the K-Hive and when they popped off and became, somewhat relevant during the 2020 primary season, like they were all notoriously fucking insufferable. Like it was just a whole fucking ordeal. And then they kind of came back in, it was 2024. Kamala Harris is now the candidate for the election, and they kind of like had a little redemption. It's like, yeah, all along, but it's just like they're still very much antithetical to progressive change. It's very much, and they very much have this elitist mindset, without a doubt.
To be black, they were too. And I think that the organization that he's thinking of that targets black and brown members of Congress is AIPAC, who just spent millions of dollars to replace Jamal Bowman with a racist white dude who's effectively a Republican.
Yeah.
In fact, this same person was making jokes about that, as if it wasn't despicable that a foreign lobbying group was able to unseat a black man for daring to condemn genocide. So, I mean, drop the bullshit. You know that this is about ideology, not identity, and we can all see through your cynical weaponization of identity politics. But putting aside that, he still makes a good point. It's hard to gauge effectiveness because the most vocal Democrats aren't necessarily the most effective. And his example of Al Green was a good example. Credit to him. Now, we're talking about him
like
because
Cory
David
Booker.
Hogg responded to him, which is why I feel like I got to give you the context and share his video. And David Hogg's response, however, didn't really help to clarify things. He says, Al Green is one of the best members we have. We need to win a House majority and elect Hakeem Speaker. The Black Caucus is the conscience of Congress, and we have to expand it. Okay, but you're still not being clear. The difference between Al Green and Hakeem Jeffries is enormous. One is an excellent representative who has a proven record of fighting for the people in his district, whereas the other is a corrupt charisma vacuum who doesn't give a shit about people in his district. Does Hakeem Jeffries get a pass because he's younger and I guess represents generational change? I mean, the lack of specificity here speaks volumes. And look, while I support this plan in theory, the details matter. And I'll give him credit. I think that disrupting the status quo from within is a genius ploy. I wish that the left thought of this sooner, but it's not going to amount to the change you say you want if we end up with the same soulless corporate Democrats who don't actually stand for anything. We don't need new faces to.
So it kind of reeks of David Hogg not doing his homework.
Yeah,
and being a little bit of a company man and kind of being told behind closed doors, like, don't fuck with the AIPAC people.
Faces to represent the same old.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right, honestly. I never really got the impression that he really was like, completely ideologically progressive to begin with. And I think because of what he went through, and he's basically been rising through the ranks since he was a victim of school shooting, if I remember correctly. It's pretty clear he's been surrounded just by party insiders, people like the elites, people who've been in the game for a long time. And of course, like, he's now the fucking vice chair of the DNC. So obviously he's going to be exposed to that entire world and get fed narratives that are pretty antithetical to the progressive movement, to progressive ideals in general. So I kind of see where the cracks are showing themselves here, because
I think they're pretty big cracks, man. Hold on, let's hear what Mike has to say. Let's wrap it up, and then we'll get back to it.
Old status quo. We need new faces to tear out the old status quo from the roots and replace it with a new one. So while I am enjoying the catfight between him and James Carville, admittedly, you have to understand that the reason why people like James Carville have dominated the Democratic Party for decades is because they are actually committed to an ideological project. They don't believe that the Democratic Party should return to FDR-style politics. People like James Carville are committed to the continuation of Clinton-era neoliberalism, where privatization and corporate profits are prioritized over robust public services preferred by the base. They think that incrementalism and governing from the center isn't just pragmatic, but intrinsically good. So in the end, I don't know why James Carville is being so hysterical about this, because even though David Hogg is offering a competing alternative to Republicans, he very clearly doesn't have a cohesive ideological vision to compete with Democrats, which just means that this project is bound to lead us right back to where we started at the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a little bit boring for me, because we saw this stuff coming and we see the DNC for what it is, and we have for over a year now. I mean, in terms of just having public accounting for it, you can go back into our live streams and see that we had these criticisms of the DNC since we started the show, which means individually, Stat Pat and I have had them for years.
Right.
And it's disappointing to see someone like Hogg come along, have the right ideas, but the wrong details.
Yeah.
So I don't know why would he not be for Kat Abigazelia? She's awesome. Why would he stroke Pelosi? She's part of the problem. She's been part of the problem for over 20 years.
Yeah. I guess thinking a bit more conspiratorially, but it's a pretty sound analysis, I think, if considering all the factors involved. He is the vice chair of the DNC. It's a big position, and of course, the DNC is seen as more of a business than anything. They're a private company, as as detailed in the court case after the 2016 election. I think when it comes to his exposure to the party and the people who have been getting in his ear, it is there's a fine line that's being walked right now. He can't be like this idea. He wants to primary the ineffective, out of touch Democrats, but a whole bunch of them are funded by AIPAC.
Right.
And AIPAC does not want their representatives fucked with.
No.
And so I would bet my salary on David Hogg being told by party insiders, by party elites, just being nudged a little bit like, hey, when it comes to these particular Democrats, here's why they're good. Here's why they should stay, especially AIPAC's favorites. I wouldn't doubt that that's the case that's playing out right now, like at all. So it's like, and it also speaks to the panic amongst a lot of Democratic insiders and congressmen, senators, and whatnot, because these people who have been there for a long time, they're used to that money. They're used to
Right.
Raking in the dough, and they are some of AIPAC's favorite pets. So,
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what's going on.
So it's good to. I'm glad we watched that because, according to superficial analysis, David Hogg is saying what a lot of people want.
Of course.
But in terms of practical application, I don't know, man. It needs work. It needs work. And so it's another qualified win, right? It's not a complete win because he's not talking shit about Pelosi. He's not talking shit about a lot of the establishment figures.
It's a start.
It's a start. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a start. And he's probably not the guy, but he's going to be maybe enabling some people that can come along.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we definitely need more of a classic Justice Democrats approach. Get new progressives in there, get the old elites out. You can't do. There's no room anymore for favoritism or the benefits of seniority. Like if you're not doing the party any favors, if you're not doing the American people any favors, if you're not actually delivering, if you're not actually fighting against the Republican establishment or the Trump administration at all, there's no place for you anymore. There's just no place for you.
Is there anything else you want to cover tonight, or you want to keep going on your stream? Because I've had a long fucking day, but
yeah. Well, apparently, JD Vance just killed the Pope.
Yeah, what the fuck? He visits the Pope, and then the next day the Pope dies. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I guess JD Vance was just so goddamn cringe that the Pope croaked. he like JD Vance went to meet him, and the Pope just died immediately of cringe. I don't blame him at all. And like if you see their interaction, like JD Vance was just so damn awkward, and the Pope just looked.
Well, I hope the church. I hope the Catholic Church is smart with their next selection and does another lefty. Like
I completely agree.
Yeah, he was the best. He's the best Pope of my lifetime. Like, I guess John Paul II was a pretty impressive guy too, but this guy was special. He put to bed a lot of things that needed to be put to bed.
Yeah. He, from what I understand, Pope Francis was, I think, the first Pope from the Americas, something like that. And he's definitely the most progressive Pope in the history of the church. He brought forth a lot of ideals that is more in line with the teachings of Jesus and shit, and preached more acceptance and some of his last words were just the how disgraceful the war in Gaza is, and the need for preaching the need for peace and stability in the region and whatnot. There's an account called Matt XIV, who does great posts, same format basically every time, and he did a little after the Pope died. The question is like, who's going to be the next Pope? Like who's going to be chosen? And there's a list of names here, and the two most I guess progressive names would be Luis Antonio Tagle and Matteo Zuppi from the Philippines and Italy, respectively. Tagle is actually one of, like the leading contenders right now. So it's possible we might either get him or
Philippines.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be fucking.
Yeah,
that would be fucking nuts to have a Pope from the Philippines.
Yeah. There's an Italian. There's two Italians in the running. I guess in the running, just potential future popes.
Right. Sure. The Cardinals with the
Cardinals
status that's required. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A couple Italians, a Hungarian, a Filipino, an American, who do you call someone from the Netherlands?
Dutch.
Dutch. I figured. Yeah. A Ghanan, Sri Lankan, and a German. Everyone except
So no Americans.
Oh, there's American Leo Burke, but he's considered conservative, who's critical of Francis's reforms. But apparently, the two guys are Tagle, which is the Filipino guy who's politically left leaning in support of LGBTQ, and Peter Caldwell Turkson from Ghana. He is a moderate, and he's against the criminalization of homosexuality, so not bad. And it's between him and Tagle, and if either one of those guys gets picked as Pope, it'd be pretty brilliant to see the meltdown from the right, because there are some like right wing personalities, I guess you could say, accounts that said Turkson, the guy from Ghana, would actually be a good fit to be Pope, and because he's black, you got the fucking backlash from the conservative right. It's like, we don't want a woke Pope, no DEI
Right.
Pope. It's just like fucking God.
They can't help themselves.
Predictable.
No matter what.
It's so predictable.
It's so predictable. No matter what, if it's a woman or a minority in a position of power, they're always going to get the DEI criticism.
God, of course.
It's just the world we're living in. It's never going to end with that shit. All right. Well, I think you should keep going, man. But I'm going to sign off.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No. Well, I mean, I'm pretty worn out from like talking. I need to actually go get some water. But I would. But I want to hit the gym. I actually hit the gym last night, and usually I don't go during the evening. Usually I try to go early in the morning, but I just never wake up early enough. So just like come home, shower, and then just hit the gym and just do it, even though it's way busier during the evening. But I'm actually feeling really pumped about it, so I might just go do that.
Nice, you should, man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, for Stat Pat, Stateless Patriot, I am Dieter McBusiness, reminding you to know the heart, vote with the head, and you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
See everybody next week.